posted 19 minutes ago. Here's another one by James. This is a continuation of the negation of the real. The Gnostic parasite James Lindsay. I haven't finished this yet, I'm about halfway through, but as I was watching it, I had a huge epiphany. James is doing what Rand tried to do in For the New Intellectual. He is giving an overview of how philosophy has affected society throughout human history and naming names as he goes along. Except where Rand did not read the original works for the most part, she did read a few. James has read them in abundance and quotes from them often. Not only that, he has done a brilliant job of integrating them into their fundamentals and showing how they are similar or different at the root. In Rand's own words, there is only faith, or mysticism, and reason as thinking systems in epistemology. However, she also scratches at something more at times when she says there is whim. In her view, faith deals with not reality, reason deals with reality, and whims deal with, something random that comes from humans, that is when looking from the context of philosophy. Often whim is faith in her meaning, but just as often, it is something more like random shit. James uses faith and reason as epistemological forms of dealing with reality and Gnosticism/Hermeticism, small g and small h, as ancient forms that still exist today of people making shit up, attacking reality to replace it with what they made up, and seeking power to transform reality into that made-up shit. So where Rand said there are two essential forms of epistemology, or 2.5 if you throw in whim, James says there are 3. It's not just faith and reason, Rand. It's faith and reason and Gnosticism, Lindsay. And there is a difference of meaning for faith between Lindsay and Rand. I had another part of that epiphany. Maybe even a second epiphany. Rand herself had a Gnostic side. It hurts to say that, and it does hurt, but let me say it again. Rand herself had a Gnostic side. Her goal in writing was to present the ideal man, in other words, the perfect man. And how do you know what such an ideal man is in detail? Well, you have to be Rand. Or an objectivist. Except it's really hard to be an objectivist. You have to be a student of objectivism, and that's the best you will get for most aspirants. So to see what she means by an ideal man, just read her books, and sit down and shut up about it until you understand it and accept it. That is a pure Gnostic approach. Her adoption of reason, though, brought her constantly into conflict with that approach as she discussed social issues in her non-fiction. She often quoted Galt in analyzing these issues, but she rarely pointed to his ideal perfection as the cure for the problems she was discussing. Instead, she mostly relied on phrases Galt said where reality was to be accepted above everything else. I have seen glimpses of this truth for a long time, but only now put it into words. These glimpses form the main reason I did not make OL into a place where we preach objectivism and form disciples. But instead it is a place where we start with an interest in objectivism and each person applies his or her best independent thinking. For now, let's just say that, if you want to understand ideas in the best manner possible, you can do like James Lindsay and read the original works of the people who wrote about ideas and take them at their word, or you can hold to a super-aggrandized vision of Rand and take her critique of people who wrote about ideas, as the best way to find out what the original authors meant. After all, if you know her works, you know she did that with many of the thinkers she wrote about. Kant and Rawls immediately come to mind. I am not diminishing Rand by saying this. Objectivism has informed my worldview ever since I read Atlas Shrugged. It still does. It is a good worldview, albeit incomplete. But I do want to identify the Gnostic elements in Rand's works in order to separate the wheat from the chaff. What's more, there is this. Rand has a right to be a human being and make her own mistakes. I can't think of a better way to respect her than to grant her that reality as a premise in the way I look at her. Because I accept that she not only made mistakes, she came up with a hell of a lot of truth. To me, personally, this James Lindsay thread is turning out to be far more important than what I imagined when I made it. You may come to agree or disagree with me, but if you are a student of objectivism, and ever had a wish to check your objectivist premises, do it here, I mean by looking at Lindsay's stuff. You will not regret it. At the very worst, it will make you think through on your own Randian issues you would normally accept on faith. What better benefit could you ask for? Smiley face. Michael.